Thank you.
Okay, so hi everybody, I'm Helen Chidlow. I'm going to be doing the second part of the talk today. I have got my tech expert with me, so hopefully you'll be able to see everything that we're sharing on the screen. Before we start the presentations, I just wanted to run through some housekeeping. So please be aware that this session is being recorded, and if you would like to keep your cameras on, you're very welcome to, so we can see some faces out there, but also equally if you want to turn them off, that's fine. So during this part of the presentation, I'll get to recording. We don't have the facility to ask questions along the way, but please feel free to put them in the chat and then we can talk about them at the end. During the second part, we can answer questions along the way. So Helen will talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. Also, please stay on mute unless you do want to ask a question. Thank you. My name is Swann, and I'm the Consultant Manager of the Specialist Speech and Language Therapy Network for deaf people across Cheshire and Merseyside. Also joining me today will be Helen Chidlow, who's one of our high specialist speech and language therapists working in East Cheshire, and Alder, our administrator and project support. So we're going to be talking to you about some projects that we've had across the region, and how we're streamlining some of our processes, and in doing that we've also realised we've reduced our carbon footprint. It's made us more consistent and helped reduce our waste through utilisation of digital tools, really. We're going to have a spotlight session that Helen will talk through on East Cheshire. Just give you an outline of what we'll be talking about today. So firstly, I want to talk about our service, so you get a bit of background about how we work. Also the project that we did in Liverpool and Merseyside, some of the outcomes of that project and what we're hoping to work on in the future. And then Helen is going to do more of a spotlight session on green practices that she's been using in East Cheshire, and then there'll be some time for questions at the end. The Specialist Speech and Language Therapy Network for deaf people spans across Cheshire and Merseyside, so we're a regional service that consists of 11 highly specialist speech and language therapists who've all received extra training to work within deafness, and we support in 9 different local trusts. So we're the only network of its kind in the UK that we're aware of. We are hosted by Alder, and therapists are either employed directly by Alder and then input into the different regions, or they are directly employed by their trust. Each of these trusts has its own system for referrals, electronic notes, and record keeping. So it can be difficult to get consistency across the network, but it also means that we can share good practice, like Helen will be talking to you about later with what she does in her area of East Cheshire, which is that orange portion at the bottom. If you want to find out a little bit more information about the network, we've got the QR code on the slides, so you can look at our webpage. We were commissioned in 2003 to ensure equity for deaf children, young people and adults across the ICB. I'm going to be talking to you about today happened across Liverpool, Sefton and in Halton. As I mentioned previously, each area has their own system for inputting on electronic patient records, resources, and whilst we're one team of therapists, we have to follow what's in place locally. So the context of this project was really in response to the NHS's net zero health service by 2040. So the NHS as a whole is reported to be responsible for 5.1 of the greenhouse gases that are produced in the UK, and the strategy to try and reduce this to zero is quite an ambitious one, but it was also being reflected in our local Alder strategy of 2019 to 24, and then again in the 2030 recently released vision. So we're getting pushed nationally and locally to see what we can do, and also there's the ethical arguments as well for trying to reduce waste and make us greener. As a service, we wanted to look at different efficiencies that we could make to go greener. We're busy clinicians, so we wanted to make sure this wasn't going to overcomplicate practices, but make us more streamlined and demonstrate that we are continuously looking to improve and make changes when needed. So we wanted to be a little bit more creative with how we work. Alder emphasises innovation as one of its core values, so we wanted to show that we were moving alongside this really. So one of the first things we did, we looked at travel and see if we could reduce this where possible through digital working, clustering appointments in similar locations. And this had made some really good gains, particularly with COVID and the big push to work more digitally where possible. And in terms of accessibility, was really good, but we felt that we were probably we'd achieved what we could in thinking about travel. The next thing was we have recycling initiatives set up in the office. So again, we didn't feel this was something that we could massively reduce on. But one of the big areas for us is our use of paper. So we're still quite heavily reliant on paper and printing. And this can also be quite a big source of frustration for us because we have a very temperamental printer that doesn't always like working, particularly on Wednesday mornings. But I think that's probably systematic of all of us rather than just the printer. But this will cause lots of delays and frustration, particularly if you were hoping to grab some resources before you were going on to a visit. So we wanted to reduce our reliance on the paper and on the dodgy printer. And when we started thinking about it, we thought this would probably reduce some of our costs as well. We wanted to make ourselves more efficient for our day-to-day business and modernise us a little bit. So we wanted to start thinking about how we could move more digitally. And in doing this, we thought about like our assessments and resources. We thought probably rather than jumping in at that stage, it'd be better to think about the patient journey at the start, at the referral stage. What happens even before we get sight of those patients? How can we start making those efficiencies straight away? So we want to look at referrals really, and then the feeling is that now that we have these systems in place and we've made efficiencies, then we can build on that for other systems going forward. So looking at our referral processes was where we wanted to start, and then we needed more detail about how it was currently working and then what we could do to make it more efficient going forward. Next step was to look at what was currently happening. When we did this in more detail, it highlighted areas in the referral process that weren't ideal for a number of reasons. So not just for environmentally, but also in terms of the processes. So we would have a Word document, or it could be emailed to us, or posted, or handed to a therapist. So because there was lots of ways that this could happen, it meant that sometimes there was delays in the form being received in the department, or forms had been lost in the post as well, and it also meant that people weren't that clear on the best way of doing it. Because we could receive forms via email, sometimes people would get an email with the form on, but then they would also want to send us the paper copy. Once the form the form then needed to be given to admin to process on the system, put the referral information on and everything else. But again, because of the delays in postage, or it could be that the therapist was given the form and then wasn't in the department for another week, it elongated that patient journey really. At this point, there was one senior therapist who was triaging, so she was working part-time, so again this could cause delays or de-skilled members of the team as they weren't as familiar with the processes and the kinds of information that's put on the referral form and what we're looking at for acceptance and rejection. There was no set template either to use for the triage, so it meant that some children may be accepted onto the service that didn't always meet criteria, and some people were rejected people that did, and it took away the consistency really. It also meant that therapists weren't always clear on the system and how to respond when they were asked by teachers or by referrers where the referral was up to. There was no set system either to acknowledge the referral, so it might mean that the teachers were phoning or emailing or directly asking the therapist when the child would be seen. But again, that then put on pressures for the therapist because they would have to go back and find out that information and then get back to the teacher. Also, there was no specific case history form for our service, so there was no way of gathering information before appointments that can help to reduce some time. So when we looked at the process, as well as we wanted to improve the governance around it, we also wanted to fit in with the organisation's objective to be more carbon neutral and reduce as much carbon as we could at this time in this process. And that's potentially meaning savings in costs and resources. So we wanted to look at what we could streamline and eliminate really to make these savings. Once speaking to the therapists and the team, this really highlighted that the current system wasn't as effective as it could be. It was quite wasteful in terms of resources and time. There were too many options for referrers. People had different understandings of the process, and generally it was felt that centralising it would help with this. The team also felt that digitising the process would help to contribute towards a green strategy. Lots of people lots of folders on the current referral system. Although we operate an open system, we tend to get response from people that sometimes the teachers felt that they had to duplicate referrals because even if they emailed them through, they felt that we still had to think about it. So there's a little bit of education around and also thinking about the quality of some of the referrals. Sometimes information is omitted, such as the GP. Or they may not look like it being practical communication difficulties. So again, that was probably something that we have to back to them to then complete that information. And they didn't meet the criteria. It was to let them those patients back and quite careful. Also, they felt that they needed to follow up on the process, even if they knew that we received the referral. They then wanted to see how long it was going to take, how long it was going to take for that child to be evaluated and whether they had to be seen. Because we did that process of doing it, back and respond. We get the teaching more time for teachers around schools and therapists to get to the Then we wanted to look at how we could operate this differently. So we were proposing a new online referral form. It could be sent to a centralised email address. The admin would then process from that email and by one of the therapists to our duty who could then triage. Then that duty therapist would triage the referral using a specific template flow chart highlighting criteria for acceptance and rejection. And then admin would send an acknowledgement to the patient, referrer and GP, let them know whether or not we can see them, how long the expected timescales are going to be. Following this, an appointment letter will be emailed to the patient and the referrer with the QR code, which would then for them to fill out the case history form. So in this system, we were able to produce quite a lot of the posted letters that were going to be sent out, the paper used for the case history form. We also had acknowledgements so people would know with their referral was up to. There's also some training involved in this. We'd have to train our referrals on the new system and train the therapists to be able to triage the referrals as they came through. Whilst that might be making us more efficient, we wanted to consider how it would actually make us greener. So looking at some of the sources online, postage stamps and letter costs around would take about 29 grams of carbon emissions. The standard email to send is about 4 grams of carbon emissions. So there's quite a significant difference between those two communication methods. In our old system, we were posting out 6 letters.
Hi, the sound has stopped completely now, so I don't know whether it's possible, Helen, for you to talk to the slides. They're really useful slides. It's just very, very difficult to hear from our end. So I'm just wondering if that's possible for you to just talk through them or in some way. And there seem to be quite a lot of background noise where you are, and now your mic's off.
Helen, you're muted. We can't hear what you're saying.
You're still muted, Helen.
Hi, sorry about that. Yeah, we noticed about slide 9 that that things were going a bit quiet, so I do apologise for that. I will pass that back on to Ellen. I think it was I don't really know why that's happened, so we do apologise. I think the only thing you've missed from that slide, she was just talking through the cost of sending an email versus sending the post. Adam, can you? We're just going to click, see if we can get the slides up here. Okay.
Which one do we use?
Are we on? We're on this one, aren't we? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go to the Teams one.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. And share.
Sure.
Is it this one?
Screen, yeah.
Yeah. Window. That one. Okay. Can everybody see that now? Yeah. Brilliant. And then we'll do slideshow. Okay. Can everybody see that now? Okay. I think we're not going to get around because Helen's recorded this. Okay. So the benefits, obviously, you can see the reduction in cost, carbon and time, increase in clinician confidence, clinical skill, governance and efficiency. So those are these are the things we've found by using this new approach that have made all of the difference. Okay, we'll go into the next slide. So what's next for the network is all appointments and letters will be sent digitally. There's lots of digital resources, so you've got Twinkle and Cognishine. I've not actually come across that before. I believe it's quite a new resource, and obviously Twinkle. And then we're looking at rolling out digital assessments through Pearson. So obviously that's going to take away the need for paper referral, paper forms and postage and all of that. So that's what's next for the network as a whole. And then the next slide is, are there any questions? Okay. So that is Helen's presentation.
Were there any questions? Oops. Were there any questions? I know it was a bit hard to hear at time.
Yeah, I do apologise about that.
That's okay.
Okay, so those are our contact details. So that's Helen's email address there. She's based at Alder. And then when I do my presentation shortly, my email address was on the bottom there.
I don't think Helen's presentation is on the screen at the moment.
Would you mind putting the contact details in the chat? Would that be all right? Just so we can, so that'd be great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Would you be okay to do that? Yeah. Technology is great when it works, isn't it?
Everybody understands. Everybody has been through these things.
Okay. Okay. So there were no questions. I think there's quite a lot of comments there about the sound, and for that we can only apologise. Okay. So we're now going to talk a little bit about what we're doing over in, is it not showing? Okay. So hopefully what you should see shortly is a brand new slide with a big rainbow on it saying East Cheshire. Okay, can everybody see that?
I think we can.
Brilliant, I've got some thumbs up there. Thank you very much. Obviously, everyone's got their camera off. Okay, so my name's Helen Chidlow. I am one of the therapists who works for the Cheshire and Merseyside Deafness Network. I am a speech and language therapist. I've been working with the network for 20 years. So I've seen lots of changes, lots of different ways of working. If you remember to the map that Ellen showed you earlier, I'm in the orange bit. So I've got quite a large geographical area, and obviously making sure that we've got good processes is really important for not only the patient experience, but also for us as a service to innovate and move forwards. So that's who I am. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we've been doing here over in my patch of the world. Okay, so has the next slide moved? There we go. Okay, so Ellen spoke a little bit before about referrals. Our referral process has actually been like that in East Cheshire. I hate to take us back 4 years, but that was the perfect opportunity for us to look at what we were doing with regards to people accessing the service, but also working in a more streamlined, greener way. So all our referrals now, that's for both communication and feeding, swallowing, are submitted via electronic form, which if you Google East Cheshire Speech and Language Therapy, there's the link at the bottom, that will take you through to our referral form. There's a form for parents and a form for schools. We haven't actually used paper forms we haven't used for a while. And similar to what Ellen said on her presentation, our referral process was a bit clunky. So you would have a paper form that you would post out or give out, then that would be posted back to you. You would then send that to, we have something central called the pod, that's what deals with all of our referrals. Then a letter would go out to the parents, an opt-in letter. So it was all a little bit clunky, really. Whereas now the referrals are all done online, they go straight to our central processing place, they get put on our electronic note system straight away. So really we've cut down on a lot of postage, a lot of having referral forms hanging around the office as well, because like with the NHS, what is it they say, the only thing that's certain is change, or there's a saying, isn't there, about things that change all the time. So what you would find is you have printed out referral forms and then something would be tweaked and they'd have to be shredded and you'd have to print some more off. So we have actually reduced our paper usage by going on to electronic referrals. So that's the first thing we're doing over here. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to speak to you about is our resources. So we are actively, as a department, trying to reduce the use of paper-based resources. And I think Helen alluded to some of the things on her previous presentation. So we are making greater use of emailing presentations and programs out. We are signposting schools and parents to different online resources. We're also, this is the bit that I'm quite excited about, and I'm only just possibly getting my head around it myself. You know, I've been working a long time and I don't think we had mobile phones when I first qualified. So Google Drive sounds very exotic to me, but we are making use of Google Drive. And what we're doing with that is storing resources, which parents and schools can then access via QR codes. I'm actually going to do the next slide is a demonstration of how that works in principle. We also use QR codes to access widget for speech sound resources, visual timetables, core vocabulary boards, basically anything that you can put on as a paper resource, we've probably got a QR code for it now. And the idea being is that because they're virtual, there's no printing required. With the technology that's available now, you know, people can access these things on iPads or smartphones or laptops, PCs. So actually we are using a lot less paper, but we're still giving the same amount of advice and support that we normally would. Okay, so this next slide, I'd like you, if you've all got a smartphone, if you could get your smartphones out. So I'm going to give you a demonstration of the types of resources that we're using QR codes for. When it catches up. Okay, can everybody see that? Can we have some thumbs up if you can see the QR codes? Brilliant. Okay, so if everybody could get their cameras on their smartphones, if you can take a picture of the QR code on the left, and I'm going to do it myself too. That should take you to widget online. And what you should have on there, it says shared documents, other user documents, and then what you should see is some worksheets and work examples for K. Okay, so if you press on any one of those folders, so I've pressed on the first one, one word level, activity 1, and then what you should see if it's worked is something that looks a little bit like this. So you can see you've got a duck and a book and a bike and a lock. So we actually generate QR codes for pretty much all of our speech sound resources now. It's just something that we can email over to a school or to a parent. So we really are cutting down on the amount of paper we use for resources that way. Another way that we use the QR code, so if you wanted to get your phone and click on the other QR code, the All About My Salt, that does take you through to the Google Drive. And if you've done it right and it's worked, you should see a lovely smiley picture of me with a different haircut. And what this is, it's a social story that I like to send to schools, particularly if I'm working with a child for the first time, or if we've got a change of teaching assistant. Again, it cuts down on paper. This can be on an iPad, it can be saved, it can be accessed whenever, and it's just that next level of support for children. Because like I say, in my day, you print a social story off, or you do a little booklet and you take that in to explain this is who I am. But with this, with the QR codes, you can make this as long or as short as you like. And if you scroll down, please don't judge me for Doctor Who. I do like tea though. But it's just a really nice way of giving that extra level of support, but in a really eco-friendly way. You know, we're not printing anything off at all. It's something that we can just keep on a computer, on a device, and it's just, like I say, that next level of support for all of our clients. And I'm very excited about this. I only learned how to do a QR code the other week, and I think I'm a bit QR code mad, but they do have a lot of uses clinically as well. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to talk about now is how we are reducing the printing and postage costs in our area. So all of our bulk printing is now done off-site via a central printer. And what I mean by that, it's those extra, the clinics where you've got lots of appointment letters to send out. It's also reports, letters with multiple CCs bottom, or if you've got multiple letters for a different clinic. So anything that's bulk now is off-site, and it's set up as a printer option on just on our Microsoft. This is reducing a lot of cost and wastage, because there's nothing worse if you're printing a letter off and perhaps it's not, the ink's not being quite right, or just whatever. This is all now done centrally. We also have started to use recycled paper. So we do have a bank of white sort of premium paper, but that's used very sparingly. So the majority of anything that we have to print out, if we actually have to print it out, is done on recycled paper. Other non-urgent single letters, we actually have an internal filing system, and what we have is all the GPs in a filing sling. And if anybody's sending a letter to a GP or to a consultant, in our area we have one district general hospital with lots of different consultants. So what happens with those is they get placed in this filing cabinet, and then one day a week on a specified day, all of the letters to a certain place get put together in a single envelope and sent as one bulk post, rather than 14 separate envelopes and 14 different posted different letters. So we are looking all of the time about how we can reduce our paper use, how we can reduce postage, how we can be more eco-friendly and streamlined. And I'm sure there's still lots of things that we have to learn, but we are making good use of this. And this is something that, being part of the network, we are able to share ideas, and I'm sure that when the things that are being used in Liverpool will be used over here, and vice versa. So we are very, very proactive as a team and as a department over here in Cheshire. Okay, does anybody have any questions?